do this podcast. He just came for a wedding. Who's getting married?
Harrison Chernick,
Okay.
the man.
And you say you worked with him.
Washington, D.C. at
Okay.
Four Seasons Bourbon Steak
Got you.
way back.
How long you work with him for?
I mean, we worked on and off for 10 years together.
Okay.
Now.
So he knows you.
Yeah. We've
It's-
seen things.
Yeah.
We've been in it.
Yeah, well, you've seen the worst
Yeah.
of each other.
Oh, for sure.
Heard that.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's the coolest thing, I think, out of the brotherhood.
yeah.
It's like, you've seen people at their worst.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I ask myself, who's seen Thomas Keller at his worst?
Yeah.
'Cause that's what I want to have on the show. You know what I mean? I want to ask him about the time that he fucked up the soup.
Yeah.
And because everybody thinks that people are infallible. It's like, come on, that's just the narrative. We all make mistakes,
We're only humans.
you know?
Everyone's a human.
Yeah. So you just left Spoon and Stable.
Yeah, recently, about a month ago.
Okay. After how many years?
4.
4 years of
Yeah.
CDC action, or did you?
CDC.
You started at CDC.
Yeah, I got hired in as a
Hired
CDC.
in. Okay. Were you? We'll get into your story before, all the way. But were you CDC before this position?
Yeah.
Okay.
At a restaurant RM74 down in the Fidei,
Okay.
San Francisco, and Millennium Tower.
Oh, right.
By like those Salesforce skyscraper stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. So before that lounge that they set up down there, Salesforce has a restaurant up there. and
Well,
shit?
across from it, you know where Aisha Curry has a restaurant
Oh, okay.
in
Gotcha.
that space
In that little-
before International Smoke. It was RN74,
Mhm.
which was like, I don't know if you know anything about RN, but RN was like just this massive, beautiful like burgundy. RN stands for Route Nationale.
Right.
74 running through Burgundy.
Mhm.
So it's a huge wine restaurant. It was from Michael Mina, and the partner was Raj Parr. Great wine mind, extremely, extremely deep cellar. And then the focus is like Burgundy, French cooking centered, but with like California sensibilities and world flavors kind of thing. It's like what everyone cooks French now.
Right.
But like, yeah, it was a really interesting restaurant. And the guy that opened it first was Jason Berthold.
Okay.
From
What year did it open?
From the Laundry. Man, if it closed, it was 10 years old when I closed it, so it was probably, I'm trying to do some math in my head, 2007 maybe it opened.
Okay.
2008.
Got you.
It was there for a while.
Okay.
But-
Okay. So OpsCIO,
Yes.
your new platform.
Mm-hmm.
You just released it. How long have you been working on it before the release?
6 years
6 years. So
Yeah.
even before Spoon and Stable, you were working on this thing.
when I was sous chefing at RN.
Right. Okay. What made you start this app? First of all, what is it, and what made you start it?
So Opsy is like a workflow tool for kitchen teams working on like making sure managing prep lists and recipes, making sure people are on the same page, and like more than anything, like creating like the ability to be centered and have like a good sense of what's going on. Clean communication.
Okay.
Trying to make clean communication, keeping everyone on the same page. So I made it, and I called my business partner when I came up with the idea because I was just like, it's probably 2017, 2016 at the time, and I was just like frustrated. I couldn't keep up with everybody in the kitchen. There was just so many people in the kitchen trying to like organize stuff, and I was trying to like take on this executive sous chef role, and there's just like complete disjoint of like communication and organization and where
Right.
things were. It was like binders and clipboards and paper, and it's just like, and we all had iPhones. It's like there's got to be something. So I started looking around, seeing if there's like any tool that might have been there, because we all have these like little computers in our pocket. There's like really nothing out there, nothing that's like accessible for the team. Everything's like super focused on operations, operators, CFOs, financial people, so they can like understand the numbers more, but there's really nothing there for making sure the teams have the right tools to do the job well,
Right.
So it kind of came from like frustration, and then developing it has been like a really interesting kind of path, because the way I kind of traveled through my career and the way I moved around and different operations I worked in, it really helped craft what it is today. But it's like when you start anything, you never really know where you're going to go or what you're originally starting with. It doesn't really end up being that way for you.
Okay. Heard that.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. Is it where you imagined it would be after 6 years? Are you ahead of the curve, or you feel behind? Like,
I'm a wild. I think most of us as
You're a
chefs are
chef,
like
yeah.
wildly impatient people.
we are behind.
We're definitely behind. But I think like every year I wished we were like 1 year ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
But I think now as I get older and as we go through this process and we keep on developing and we learn about it and we're getting smarter each year as we go through it, is like we're probably exactly where we need to be
Mm-hmm.
in
You always are.
in adjacence of like possible success or doing something really well or like whatever it is, like whatever we measure as success of like making a great tool or business success or bringing on a great team to do a good job is like I think we're in a good place now.
Do you find there to be direct competition as of today with that kind of thing?
There is.
Okay.
There definitely is. I mean, at the end of the day, like we're managing recipes, we're managing food costs.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not going to change the way you write a recipe.
Okay.
We're not going to change like the math of food costing. But what we hope to do is like create better experiences. And I'm like a firm believer because like we've seen it as chefs. Like restaurants are hard. The people that in them are really passionate and interesting and deserve like really should get really good tools that help support them to do a really good job.
Right.
And I think the humanity we need to bring into bringing like building technology tools for people like this is like really important. We can't forget who it's for.
Mm-hmm.
And at the thrust of everything that we do, we got to make sure the tool is for like the fry cook, the garde manger person, the server on the floor, like the sous chef that's working 16-hour days, 6 days a week, like, and not make their lives hard and also not try and like granulize them down to just like numbers.
Right.
So
that was why I would be hesitant to use it.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like you're sort of submissive to the system, and then when the system breaks or somebody doesn't input something correctly, that can be quickly, well, you didn't put it in the app,
Yeah.
so it's your fault. So how do you? Is there like, does it send you alerts or any of that? Like, how does the app work? Like, I have Opsio. What am I doing?
So we put all your recipes in. We get you organized. It gives you a place where you can like print them off. If you want to keep binders in the kitchen still, it gives you the ability to get access to everything really quickly from any device. So like you could get your cooks on it. They could download it, log in, and they have immediate access to all the recipes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a large amount of like training and resource materials that you have like right away. That piece of it was especially important because it's like you show someone how to do something and they're on the station for a couple days and then they show the next cook how to do it and then the next cook and the next cook. And it's like this game of telephone where it will change over time.
Oh, yeah.
Not because of like
The amount of garlic. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I think it's better with 2 cloves.
yeah, not malice or anything. It's
Yeah.
just like personal opinion and human nature.
Exactly,
People just
right.
like change
But don't
things.
put it in
'cause-
there because they'll get upset.
Yeah. So it's like you get to a point where you're like, why does it look like this? Or why are you doing like this? Or who told you to do this? Like this person told me or that person. It's like a whole thing where you're chasing them around.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, like I used Opsy at Spoon for 4 years. Like we put it in right away. And it was like, why does it look like this? It's like, did you read the recipe? It's like, no. Okay, well, you got to read the recipe. Like that's part of it. But if you did and it looks like this and you don't understand the recipe, at least we have like a place to start for like a learning opportunity.
Okay.
It cuts down that conversation of like this person, that person. It's not like a he said, she said. It's like you have a phone, you have access to it. The recipe's there. If you read it, okay, then we can fix it. If you didn't, we could start there with like fixing the problem of like education alone.
Right.
And then there's like a learning opportunity for it.
Okay. How are ways that you can expand that? Because like you said, food costs and recipes will be, forever the same basically.
Yeah.
What do you see in the future? Like if you had everything working the way it was and you had all the money in the world, it was the most successful app, where would you take that past what you're doing right now?
I want to help better resource people.
Okay.
I want to help like people feel better about what they're doing because the tool is like giving them either information because like managing people can be so like time consuming and like almost like people can see it as perspective. Like
right.
Humans can get really defensive based on feedback and can assume that like these pieces of feedback, whether they are or not, are directed at them based on like personal preference or their personality against like someone else's personality. So like I want to be able to not just like granularize down their work to something, but at least give the person that is doing the job the ability to be like, look, I'm doing a great job and here are like these different data points to show you why. And then on the other side, like being able to give the managers the tools to be like, you need to work on these different things, and we can start like setting benchmarkable goals or like having conversations around what you want to achieve in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and then like track that path out and have both sides leverage the information for like the advantage of the employee and also for the advantage of like the business to like make sure people are staying on task,
Right.
doing the right things, staying accountable with what they're responsible for.
If another restaurant has OpsCIO, can they then draw from that information that they had at the last restaurant? So like they know their strengths and
we want to
weaknesses as they
get to
hire?
that point eventually.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be really good.
I think it'd be powerful.
Yeah. Well, you know where to send people.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and you know, you can have a scale in front of you that tells you what you're good at and what you're not good at.
Mm-hmm.
Because your mind can trick you and tell you that you're good at things that you're not.
Yeah.
You know?
Perception's such a powerful tool.
Exactly. Oh, very cool. And, you know, we can hold chefs accountable.
Yeah. And I think look, man, the last couple of years have been hard. Like COVID has been challenging and staffing is challenging, and people need, for better or for worse, like the whole pandemic kind of like put us in this position of like having to really rethink how we do stuff. And we said like very mid-market restaurants, like upscale casual stuff. And you need to like give people purpose. Like people need some sort of like emotional investment, knowing that they're not just there to like, you know, progress their careers, but like you're trying to help them progress as people.
Right.
You know, and that's really, I think that's super important for just like anyone in general, knowing there's a level of investment. And now more than ever, like I feel like I was just like psychoanalyzing people every day, which is fine. I was doing it and no one made me do it. It was my choice.
You just had to.
Yeah. Because, you know, you care about the people. You're around them so often, like 5-6 days a week, hours and hours on end, doing hard things. Like it's pretty galvanizing. It's why I'm still friends with people for 10 years that I was cooking in kitchens with and going to their weddings. And like, I wanted to be a resource for the team. I didn't want them to feel like there's this like wall. There's a wall of like comfortability. Like we might not be going out and drinking. Might not be like hanging out on the weekends, but if you need something, you call me. I want to help.
Right.
You know,
it's
that kind of stuff.
You're changing the tide, because back in the day, people were afraid to talk to their chefs.
It has to be
just like,
it has to be open.
right.
The conversation has to be there, because there's not a way around it anymore. Like I don't think it's fair to put people in those kind of positions and not make sure there's like a space they can reach out to make sure they have like a level of comfort, especially when you're spending so much time in one space. Right? Kitchens are not 9-to-5 jobs, you know?
No, they're not. No matter
You've
what
invested
anybody
a lot
says,
of physical emotion.
Yeah. That's why everybody's like, oh, work-life balance. And I'm like, don't have a restaurant if you want work-life balance, because it's not that.
It's hard. It's impossibly hard to have it.
Oh, for sure.
So it's like, for them, I wanted to make sure that I was like a security, a resource that they could be reaching out to when they need stuff. Yeah. And that was like really important for me to make sure I made that a part of the culture for the team, made sure that they saw me as that person that they could like trust and like console with. And, you know, it made my days harder. Like some weeks were really tough, and sometimes you definitely don't get like weekends.
But you're taking on a lot of shit.
Yeah. It's a lot of emotional baggage you can be collecting.
And exactly.
Yeah.
That's what one of my old chefs was telling me, you know, because I'm always like, is this show going to work? Is this going to, and he's telling me that, he's like, you talk about a lot of things that chefs feel that they don't talk about, which is important. And ultimately all it takes is you trying to change the game, me trying to change the game, and then that'll like catch on.
It has to.
You know? And
because
it's tough being that guy that's taking everybody's emotional baggage, you know. And one of the best things about the show is like, hey, you can be a mentor to people without the emotional baggage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because but part of it too, I feel like on the cook's standpoint, I think there was some times when I took shit to work when I shouldn't have.
For sure. You have to have
and try to say, hey, chef, fix my life.
Yeah.
Make me happy by giving me an R&D project.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, what is that?
You're like doing you're like almost like you're at a certain point, we're just hiring very young cooks, because like that piece of it is different too. You're not getting like killer 27-year-old cooks anymore that are just like trying to cook to cook. Like you're getting 19, 18-year-old kids that you're like kind of bringing them into
Yeah.
This like you're shepherding them into like adulthood in a lot of ways, and like getting people to learn how to like. There's got to be a line between this. Like, I am not your landlord.
Yeah.
Like, don't take it out on me. I'm here to help you. I'll help you all you want. But like all that emotion you're feeling right now, you can't be directing it at me because I'm not directing any of it at you right now. Like I got stuff I got to handle outside of here, but
Right.
I'm not bringing this in and like just beating you up on it. So like,
There's also that work is work thing, which I feel like gets lost.
yeah.
You know, motherfuckers come to work and they're like feeling sad.
And it
So
gets
they-
like personal.
Yeah, and
for whatever
I've
reason.
done it as a chef who like, you know, if you work a month straight,
Yeah.
start to take on a lot of like, you know, just and then you're just the bitter one
Yeah.
rolling around and you're like can't even be talked to. You know?
Yeah.
So, and that's just, like I said, internalizing shit.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody just says anything anymore for fear of hurting feelings, but also people are too sensitive. So it's like, how do we meet in the middle there?
Yeah.
Without making either side feel bad about it, you know? But, well, first of all, Sucio Talk 100. Chef, give me a cheers.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having me.
Boom. Yeah, of course. Sucio Talk episode 100. Drinking some plantation rum. It's fucking good, right?
It was really nice.
Yeah. Plantation rum. It's delicious.
Right on.
Is that the 20th year? 17th year? I forget. I don't even think that's...
20th anniversary? Is
Is
there?
it? I don't think it says a date on it,
No.
but it's just... When I first had it at Charter Oak, it was one of the smoothest rums I've ever tasted. And, like, I don't drink alcohol like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes when... Even at, like, mezcal tastings, like, I'm learning the nuances of mezcal now, but it takes a long time for me to be able to, like, just drink alcohol like
Yeah.
that without it being in a cocktail.
Yeah.
I just recently came from Mexico. I will say, weak cocktails out there. I don't know what was going on, but I was watching a measure, and they were only putting like an ounce of liquid in there because
Really?
they were pouring it right under the line of the jigger.
Huh.
So it was like, but you know, here they like pour it and
Yeah.
then keep going with it. So I don't know.
It's all 2 ounces.
But anyway, yeah, happy birthday to Sucio Talk. It's actually, yeah, November 17th, I think, is when I started it. So 2 year birthday, 100th episode.
That's impressive. That's a lot.
Yeah, that just means it translates into one episode a week,
Yeah.
you know? So that's what I at least wanted to hit. And sometimes I don't drop, but I make sure that I hit the numbers at least in my head. So I'm happy.
Heavier weeks.
Not just like beating myself up
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm not, you know, because some people are like, hey, where the fuck's the show? And I'm like, fuck. Like, I feel, you know, I feel bad, but at the same time, I don't know, man. You go through these ebbs and flows, and I think I was asking you when you said you left Spoon and Stable about your identity crisis.
Yeah.
You know? And it was in a joking way, but I know what it feels like to be something for so long and then not be it anymore.
Yeah.
And how has that transition affected you?
It's weird. It's really weird. It's like there's no, like we were saying this before, but like the tactile nature of like cooking, like touching the tangibility of things, like, it's just days are good and then other days are hard, and where you're like not really sure if you're getting anything done. Because like with Opsy, it's like emails and phone calls and meetings, and if like my day's not stacked with meetings, like I feel like I'm not really doing much, but I might be sending like email after email after email after email, like keeping up with people.
Right.
Or like having internal meetings, but like if I'm not having just like from 9 to 7 o'clock at night meetings, it feels like I'm not really getting stuff done.
Right.
Because for us, it's like, you know, I'm at least in my position when I was like cooking all the time, which is only a month ago. Like I was so volume based, like it was like how much service were we doing, how much proteins were we breaking, and like how much prep do we get done, what was production like. And now it's like, well, did like 2 calls today.
Right.
It's just like it's a juxtaposition of like what I'm used to in like all of my career.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, it's weird. Like it almost hasn't really felt weird. It's like, I feel like I'm on a vacation a little bit
Yeah.
where it's like, I don't know when I'm going back.
Will you ever go back?
Ah, man, that's a tough one. I want to stay in the industry in some way. Like I want to stay like footed somewhere in hospitality. Doing some consulting work and stuff is cool because it's like keeps it all like moving, like the brain kind of chugging along creatively. But owning a restaurant, it's a lot. Just being in a restaurant's a lot. owning a restaurant is a completely different beast, and I think I could definitely see myself doing it. It's just got to be at the right thing, right time.
Mm-hmm. If you could open a restaurant tomorrow, what would it be? Like, what is your dream fucking?
I love like Mediterranean
Okay.
food, like bright flavors, lots of spices. I think I would want to open something that's like, I don't want to call more casual, but I would say like less service oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like plates just come out as ready, like
Right,
silver
right.
on the table
I like
already,
that.
less touching. Good cocktail program, strong wine program,
Right.
but just like 2 proteins, 2 fish, bunch of vegetable, cold starter stuff, like small kitchen, managing like 4 or 5 people.
Right.
Only open 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure we have weekends off and just like have like a rock solid crew to just like go to war with every week
Mm-hmm.
and just like turn it over.
How many covers would you do?
I think like an 80 seat restaurant would be good.
80 seat?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 turns?
Yeah, try and do like 200 covers
Okay.
with a bar. That'd be good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
What city would you open it in? Or where would you open
If money wasn't an option
it? Yeah.
or a factor, I'd do something in California. I don't think I'd ever want to go to New York. Not because I have anything against New York. I just feel like it's so big. It's so tall. The reason I like DC so much is like the buildings are shorter.
Yeah, it's a little flatter. You see the sun.
It's flatter and like it's bigger than San Francisco
Oh, okay.
by mileage, but it's smaller feeling than San
Right.
Francisco to me.
You're right.
Because it feels like when you get more out to like the burbs, like the Richmond and stuff, where like everything's shorter, it starts feeling that way to me.
Okay.
I'd love to be in DC though. I'd have to just convince my girlfriend, who is from Hawaii, to move farther east, which I don't think is going to happen ever.
There you go. How about Hawaii?
Hawaii's tough. It's expensive.
Everyone tells me that's tough, but I don't really know why. It's just expensive, or
Well, it's hard to. I mean, it's just hard to get stuff.
Oh, I guess yeah.
The trick too with Hawaii, if you want to like do fish centered, is like Hawaii's a third market, so nothing gets sold to Hawaii first. If you get
What?
fish in the Pacific caught like on islands, they get shipped to like Japan, San Francisco first. So Hawaii is a third market for any fish.
Same thing in Puerto Rico.
It's
Must be just all the island fish.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And just buying power, right? Like,
Yeah.
Send it to San Francisco, make more money, sell more of it.
Yeah, and then send it back frozen to Hawaii
Yeah.
and sell it to the restaurants there.
They have some really good fish programs though. But Hawaii is like, it's tough. It's you're on an island.
Right.
It's hard to get stuff. And then you're kind of almost limited a bit in a way for like staffing, because you just like, you're like there.
You have to deal with the
You got your
whoever the high school kids are.
you got your market.
Yeah.
Like you're not getting someone else from another city without getting them to move across the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, I'm paying them 6 figures, which doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. Well, I think it's time to take it all the way back there, James. Where were
right.
you born?
Jersey.
Jersey. Joyzy, huh?
North
Where?
Jersey.
North Jersey.
Like tri-state Pennsylvania, New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Farmland.
You grew up going to, but did you grow up going to the city a lot?
Not really. We'd go in periodically. We're like an hour and a half away outside city. I was closer to like the Delaware Water Gap
Okay.
than to New York.
Okay.
We were like in farmland.
Right.
Deep
Were you
farmland.
farming?
Well, in high school I did like Future Farmers of America,
Okay.
which is a whole thing.
Competition?
I did do some competitions.
How do you compete in farming?
There's
Does it like take like 3 months? You have to
No.
wait for the harvest, or what do you?
so like like 4-H does like livestock raising. Like you do cows, chickens, goats, like all that kind of stuff. Future Farmers America, you can do a bunch of stuff like that. And then there's like public speaking competitions. Either like you write on a subject matter, or there's public speeches that they have that you then are supposed to memorize and then like deliver.
Right.
It's really interesting. My business partner actually, we did this wildlife
Crushes
class. He did public speaking, and
Right.
we went to like nationals for it. Is interesting. It's such a weird thing. I did land judging.
Land judging?
Yeah.
Like you look at land and say, yo, this is good land over here.
You get like in a pit
Right?
in the ground, you know, like feeling the soil, silt, clay,
Right.
like what could it be good for?
Is this exciting? Is there a crowd there?
There's a crowd, yeah.
Wait a minute. So there's a crowd there. How much does tickets cost?
It's a fucking scene. It's a whole thing. So we do states,
Right.
and that's like it's like everything. Like it's down at Rutgers, or it was down at Rutgers at the time, and like we're out back. I'm in the dirt. It's raining. We're like judging the grade. We're looking at the soil. We're like making decisions based on like the foliage and what the surrounding areas look like. And then there's like inside the halls, they're doing like speaking competitions, like mechanical competitions, like
Right.
just it's like a whole spectrum of stuff. It's wild.
Okay.
No real farming though. I've never done any real farming, so I don't want to paint a picture.
Well, yeah, I just said like harvest this field as quickly as possible, and people were like, "Oh my!"
My 5'9" ass out there.
That would be some crazy Top Chef shit right there.
Yeah. No,
That
it
would
was
be like, you guys have to harvest your radishes and beets and then cook them. Beets in 1 hour, bro. You know?
no nothing like that. But it was we lived out on the farmland, out in the woods, no streetlights, small towns.
No street lights.
Yeah.
Damn. Siblings?
One brother,
Okay. Older?
younger. Yeah.
Okay, older brother. A lot of responsibility.
Yeah. He's out here now.
Okay.
He's out in the Bay Area.
What's he doing?
Computer programmer.
Okay.
He figured it out.
Yeah. Is he helping you, or is he like, nah?
We'll get him there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We'll get him there. Keep it in the family.
Yeah. What was eating like growing up? Because you grew up around farmland. Were you guys eating farm vegetables? Mom cooking, dad cooking?
My mom didn't cook that much when we were a kid. Definitely got into it as we got older. My dad cooked way more. Italian background, so he's second generational. His family's from Sicily.
Okay.
So his grandmother came over. Mother lived in central Jersey. So we had like a lot of Italian, red sauce, meatballs, lasagnas kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I would say like maybe in the 2000s, like food became a little more prevalent where I was growing up. But I mean, it's like you're out there, like you can throw a rock in any direction, hit a pizzeria. Like there wasn't like exciting stuff happening in that area. There are some chefs still there that are doing like cool stuff, really high quality things. Some chefs that I worked for, but it was not like we're out there in the fields like getting delicious carrots and stuff. It took time for that to kind of develop. Some good asparagus growers, great tomatoes, great corn, but I don't know. It's hard to compare it to California. California is like such a special.
It really is.
Place.
It really is. The food definitely tastes different here.
Yeah.
I remember tasting kohlrabi for the first time in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Being like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? The tasteless shit. And then when I came here, they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to do a kohlrabi dish. And I was like,
It's cold,
okay.
cold raw sliced
Yeah,
kohlrabi.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then it was fucking delicious. And I was like, oh, this is what it tastes like.
It's been wild to see it kind of like all change. Like the way it was and the way it is now, like there's always been farmers that have cared, and that's not to like say there wasn't that there. And also understanding that like my mind was different when I was young growing up. Like I wasn't so perceptual of those kind of things. But it was like what we really ate was like just Italian food. In the summer, it was just like corn and tomatoes. We would grow stuff in a little row thing that we had going on next to the house, and it was small family, sit down every single night, eat dinner together.
Okay.
Tight knit kind of stuff, but really far away from like the rest of the families. So like we'd see them every now sparsely, but my parents kind of like moved really far east or really far north compared to where the rest of the team was for them.
Got you. Okay. So when did you, what was your first job?
Cook
Where?
at a restaurant called Perona Farms.
Okay. Italiano?
They're Italian family, but it's they've got to be into year 110 now of ownership of the
Year 110?
Yeah.
God damn.
They did the 100-year anniversary when I was living out here, like a James Beard event back home, like 40 chefs, like big, like, one of those events everyone does like a dish kind of walk around thing. But their family, it's really cool. So they like, it's three brothers at the time. Kirk, Wade, Mark. Kirk was the chef. Wade was like the operational guy. Mark was like the general manager, like front of house. Kirk went to school in New York for cooking, came back home, started working at the restaurant, worked around in different places, and like developed smoked salmon. So they have this huge piece of the restaurant that's like a processing facility that they made for like smoking salmon. So like in the 90s into 2000s, they were like producing this smoked salmon, and it was like, it blew up. It was like #1 smoked salmon in the world. He met Jean-Louis Paladin at the Watergate because he started selling smoked salmon down there to him. He was like selling to Wolfgang Puck. Met Daniel Boulud and Eric Ripert through the Watergate, Michel Richard, all those kind of chefs, because they are all coming from France to work for Jean-Louis. He made a great connection with Jean-Louis, became great friends with him. And then they would like do these events every year. It was a game dinner. So like my father hunted, I hunted when I was younger. They'd have like trappers, farmers, fishers. They'd save all season, all winter, freeze a bunch of stuff throughout the seasons while they're hunting and catching. And then they would like throw a party. So it'd start off really small. It was like friends and family. They'd just be like doing fish fries and like small stuff. And then they started bringing in chefs and guests at like really, really high profile. Like when I was 11, the one dinner that I did, the first one that I was able to do, they would close every January for the month just to do facility stuff. And the second Tuesday of every January, they would have this game dinner. So the weekend leading up to it, they'd have chefs coming in, local people coming in, prepping, doing food stuff. Monday they'd throw like a party. It was like all the food that there wasn't enough of to serve. So it'd be like friends and family. And then Tuesday was the dinner, and it was like 40 courses. They have 2 kitchens or 2 lines in the kitchen because it's a huge catering place. So they have like one in the back, one in the front, and each of them are doing like courses each time.
Right.
So Mark's on like the microphone.
Courses? Holy fuck.
It was intense.
Yeah.
So like Mark's on the microphone. He's like talking over the PA, telling people what's coming off what line, like badgering people, doing like raffles and stuff. And it's like Ming Tsai's in the back doing like a venison carpaccio, and Danielle Blue's up front doing like a pheasant pithivier. And it was just like Robert Irvine, just like crazy like
Robert Irvine.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a throwback name.
Yeah, for sure. Like we're talking about Dinner Impossible chef?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I don't know much history on him. He was a legitimate restaurant jefe back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know much of his background. I mean, European guy.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was like, there's just like all these chefs around. And I was like 11. And the first thing I like helped plate in a kitchen was with Ming. And it was this venison carpaccio with like hot sesame oil, sesame seeds, green onions. I don't remember the dish at all. I can't tell you like it. There was nothing that like in that thing that sparked my mind to be like, oh, I love food.
Right.
What it was
that moment important? Did you feel like this means a lot because those chefs were who they were?
I had no idea.
Right.
I wish I was older at the time. I wish I was like maybe 5 years older to like really understand. Cause like someone like Jean-Louis Paladin is like, I think an under spoke about chef in America. Like no one knows of the mainstream of him, but his impact on like what food is today and just the chefs that are like relevant today is like massive.
Damn right.
Like, and he was just like a really great person. So like, I didn't know Jean-Louis, but I was like, not shoulder to shoulder. I was like hip to shoulder cause I was really short, but he was like teaching me how to like break pheasants and ducks. And it wasn't like any of that. Like, it wasn't like, wow, this is Jean-Louis, or like, wow, this is Ming Tsai. It was like, wow, these people are like having fun. Like they enjoy this. Yeah. Like these are their friends. And like, this environment seems fucking cool. Like I want to be around these people. I want to be around this energy. Like I want to have friends like this. And then a lot of it was like, I was hanging out with my dad. So it was like, I was 10, 11 years old. It's what I wanted to be doing. Like being around my pops. But it was like the energy. It was like, it was about the people. Right. And that's like what made me be like, social studies sucks.
Yeah.
And cooking seems cool.
Right.
And I like decided I wanted to cook.
Okay. And when you made that decision, what was the first step towards that? Obviously working there, but
I told my parents, and they told me it was a bad idea.
Right.
It's hard. No weekends, no holidays. They're like, so if you want to do it, you're going to go do it and figure it out quickly if you want to do it or not. So Kirk, family friend, who's the chef at Perona, they just like put me in. So I was like working in caterings, peeling potatoes, cutting onions, like all this like menial stuff. Then I just stayed for 6 years, all the way through high school.
Wow. Okay.
Cooked there. It was like not cooking. I never really cooked on a line until I was about 20. But I was just like there learning. trying to like, I think it was good because it taught me like structure, and it taught me like the professionalism about it. Like Wade would not let me go out on the floor unless I had like tall black socks on.
Right.
You need tall black socks, black pants, black shoes. Can't look like shit. Got to have your toque, like the whole thing. And just like showing up every day, being like that. I remember very vividly when I was first working some of my first brunch shifts. You had to show up at like 8 a.m. on Sunday. I showed up at like 8:10 or something. It was late, and Mark was there just like on me.
Right.
And I still remember it to this day. I saw him like a month and a half ago in Minneapolis. He was out there, and I was like talking about it. I was like, you like were just like in my ear all day long. And it's like you don't live it down. Like they just held it on you.
Yeah.
And like made you
never do it again.
Made you never do it again. It made you never want to do it again. Because it's just like it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, for me, it wasn't like, fuck this guy, I hate this. It was like I was wrong.
He's
like,
right.
He's 100% right. I was late, and I should have been here, and he's right. Like I'm just not going to show up late anymore.
Got you. So how did you make a decision to, after 6 years, leave?
My parents wanted me to go to culinary school.
Right.
So I did that. I went to I can't remember the name of school. I went to Cincinnati for a bit.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, I went there for about 6 months. I lived on the campus at University of Cincinnati.
And they had a culinary program there?
Well, they had like a shared program, like where you can do housing, and then there was like a really good culinary program at a local college. I can't remember the name of it, like a community college in Cincinnati. But the reason why I went there, one of the French chefs that we knew, Jean Robert in Cincy, he had like 5 restaurants at the time. Really talented chef, kind of came over with like Danielle, and he was out there and he knew this program and he does a lot of work with them. And he suggested we go there. And it was like, more affordable, but it was like way out there, like Midwest.
Okay.
So I stayed there for about 6 months, and the UC was just like developing like a master's program in food science. And that was like the whole thing. They were trying to do like people from culinary background, do their associates, get their bachelor's, move over, finish a master's. I wasn't like living in Ohio. So I moved back east to Rhode Island to go to Johnson & Wales for a bit.
Okay. What year was that?
2009, probably.
Oh, no
I
way.
graduated in 2008 from high school.
Right.
Yeah.
So you went to Johnson & Wales in 2009?
Yeah. I was there for about a year. I did a year there. Or
Okay.
probably a year and a half, I
In
bet.
the South Hall?
Yeah, I lived in
Where-
South.
You lived in South?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know Sergio? Juan?
Maybe. I was living, I didn't really even like interact with like any of the culinary people outside of like classes.
Right.
Because there at the time when I was there was like this wing of business school students.
Right.
And since I was coming in while they were like everything was already going.
Were you in downtown?
No, I was in South, but like there was a hallway. Like I remember going in, you go up the stairs to the second floor, and then it like breaks off. You go right or left. I was like left and then right, and I was like all the way down at the end. But there was like this stretch of rooms that was just all business school people because they were building some sort of dorm downtown that wasn't like open yet.
Right.
So they had to like overflow.
So you hung out with the business kids mainly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was just like
Funny how that happens.
who
You
I
just
was
hang out
hanging
with
with.
like who's next door,
Yeah.
you know? Damn. So for 1 year you went to Johnson & Wales?
I did that year, which I showed up in the winter. So it was like 6 months.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Yeah. Overcast and snow and
Yeah.
people are pissed.
And then I went back again the next year for another year. So I was doing it was like 18 months total. And I probably had what really ended up being I just had like 2 things left. I had to do like a storeroom class, like product ID things.
Right.
And then I had my externship.
Okay. Where'd you do your externship?
Well, I'm not a good student. So like, I don't know what happened or how it happened, but like I went to the advisor and we were talking about it and he's like, yeah, you're not going off campus. Like your GPA is
You had to do it on campus?
He's like, your GPA is terrible.
That's all right.
And I was
did
going
the Radisson Airport Hotel, so I know where you.
Well, I don't know what happened. Like I went home for the summer.
Right.
I started working at this restaurant called Jimmy's Italian Tavern. It's like a perfect Italian restaurant name for a place in Jersey. Where it was my first line cooking experience, and that's a whole other thing. We can get into that if you want. But
Yeah.
I went home and like before I left, I was sitting with my advisor on the campus at admissions, and I was like talking about it, and I gave them my resume because they need a resume and they need references, and like I put like David Burke and Rick Moonen and like David Varley and like all these people, and he's like, I'm gonna call them.
Yeah.
He's like, if they don't know who you are, like these clearly aren't gonna work out. I was like, all right, well, call them. Like, I don't know. I know who they are. Yeah. So he's like, I think he thought I was like bullshitting him for whatever reason. Yeah. I don't know what happened. I went home. I was working at Jimmy's Italian Tavern. He called me. He's like, we got a thing in Boston if you want to go out to Boston. Worked an unpaid internship for 6 months.
Where at?
I don't even know if it was like really an externship or anything because I never went back to school. I just like got a job and I was like, that was it. I'm done.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what it was.
They didn't like send you a bill or anything?
Dude, I mean, they might have. I was like 20. I had no idea what was going on. I was just like, it was paid for by the federal government.
Okay. So you're at Jimmy's Italian Tavern.
Jimmy's Italian Tavern. I helped open it.
Uh-huh.
It was crazy. It was the craziest thing in the world. I don't even remember the name, the guy that was the chef. He's some Albanian dude from South Jersey. And he had a couple restaurants. He came up north, partnered with somebody, started doing this restaurant. And we just got like clobbered the first week because it's a small town. So everyone's like excited and they want to go out.
Yeah.
Just doing like 300 covers a night, just getting like punished.
Oh.
And it was like the chef.
And a new restaurant?
Yeah. It was four cooks.
That's hard.
It was me, 2 Latino guys, and then this guy's cousin. And he wanted to be called Hollywood. I don't actually remember what his name is. We just called him Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it was Hollywood, me and the 2 other guys, and my station was between a broiler and a fryer.
Yeah.
And I had like maybe 6 burners. And I helped work the broiler and the fryer. And it was just like so fucking hot. Like impossibly hot.
Was Hollywood pretty?
Hollywood was
Hollywood because he was pretty?
I think he had long hair and he like put it up and it was like all slicked back. So I think it was just like his thing.
Right.
Like his personality. But it was like it was a really intense experience. Like first time cooking.
Yeah. That sounds fucking crazy. At the time, is there any time when you're like in the shit or like, just looking down at that fryer and there's like another hour of serve, another 100 more covers, what are you saying to yourself during these times? Because I know me, I was like, is this it? Is this like being a chef? Is this what I don't know.
Yeah, you always have existential crisis. Man, I had one like last month. You're always questioning something, right? I feel like if you're not questioning it, you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're so comfortable to the point where you're like you're like not concerned you're on the right track, like I think that is personally a problem. I've questioned every single step that I've ever taken. Like whether it was working at Jimmy's Italian Tavern or it was moving to Boston or moving down to DC or San Francisco or to Minneapolis, like I've questioned every single move I've ever taken, not because like I don't think I could have done it. Like I don't think I was like incapable of doing the things that I wanted to do or I was going to do at the time, but it was like, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this what this is supposed to be? Like looking down at that fryer and looking at like chicken parm.
Yeah.
Like, is this what this is? Like, is this the thing that I need to be doing? Like, could I be doing something else? Like,
because there's those moments where time stops and you're reminded of real life. Like, oh, you got to do laundry tomorrow. Some dumb shit will just like pop into your head.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And then you realize where you are.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? And you just fucking drop another order because somebody's like, hey, dumbass, stop fucking. You're like, oh, what?
Yeah. No, it's like, Jimmy's was a questioning experience. It was cool because I actually got to cook. So like the whole experience was like, man, I'm like actually cooking for the first time. So that was exciting, but it was just like, it was insanely hot and it was insanely hard. And then it just like dropped off a cliff. Like it wasn't busy.
Really?
The restaurant's closed now. So I'm like, I'm not like painting a weird picture. Like we didn't do well eventually because it was like an Italian restaurant in Jersey. It's like, you hit an Italian restaurant any direction with a rock. You're in northern New Jersey.
Yeah. Like
no one has problems finding Italian food out there. It just like fell off a cliff at some point. And like, I remember talking to the guy, he's like, what do you want me to do today? He's like, just go in the freezer and like take ice off the walls. It's like in the freezer for 2 hours.
It didn't send you home.
Yeah.
All good.
It's like wants you there.
Yeah.
It was an interesting experience. It was just like different, all the way around different. And it's like weird. You like, everyone wants to think you like start in these like beautiful, pristine restaurants, learning from like the best people in the world. You start off on the line firing chicken parm.
Some of the best lessons are learned from the worst people, though.
For sure.
You know, so.
There's a huge learning curve in knowing what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Almost more meaningful than learning what you want at all.
Right. Are you living at home during this time?
Yeah, I was.
What are your parents like? I mean, you're probably coming home super late. Did they care? Or were they just like, do what you want to do?
They did. I mean, they're definitely caring parents. Like, they're very present. It was like we were always kind of like strong opinioned. We wanted to do the things we wanted to do, not because we wanted to do anything bad. It was just like, if I'm gonna move to Boston, like I'm just gonna do it. Like I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to like cook. Cooking's what I want to do. Like I think at some point they were hoping we were gonna like be doctors or lawyers. Like they're just like hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Like kid's gonna be an engineer. And then we stayed down these like weird paths. Like we didn't do necessarily what I think they wished we
Right.
we would have done. But I mean, they're supportive regardless. Like there's a lot of trust
Okay.
and understanding.
Did you move from there to Boston? Was that your first move?
Yeah.
Right. Did you have a job at a restaurant first, or did you just move there and say, I'm going to just get a job?
It was going to be the externship
Mm-hmm.
at this restaurant called the Somerset Club
Oh, shit.
on Boston Commons.
Yeah, was it like, Somerset Club? That was like well known back in the day.
Yeah.
Because I know that's where everybody in Johnson Wales went for their internship.
It was dope. It was hard.
Is it a golf course?
No, it's just like a club, like a supper club restaurant.
okay.
Like we do like,
Those are weird. They're only in the Northeast, I feel.
yeah, you just like,
Clubs.
I think they're part of a network. I don't really understand. I think they're part of a network. You like pay in,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like places that you can just like go and dine in different cities.
Mainly
or
for
different,
corporate people.
yeah,
Yeah.
corporate account stuff. Do like 20 covers a night at that restaurant. They do lunch too. I never cooked. They'd let me concasse tomatoes, clarify butter, chop parsley, do shallot brunoise. That was it. And I could kill lobsters, like tear arms off lobsters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they let me do more stuff as time went on, but it was like very judicious in the fact of like who did what, very structured. And the chef was his name's Joseph Leonardi. At the time, he was the coach for the Olympic team for Team USA for ACF.
Yeah, a lot of those chefs from those clubs are in the ACF.
Mm-hmm.
I had my chef in high school was in the ACF, and he was the chef at a club in Connecticut.
Yeah.
In the Northeast, just like that's a really big culture thing.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. And he was teeing up for his like certified master chef program, so his CMC.
Which mattered. Now it doesn't.
No. And I think it's like it's for like restaurant type people. Yeah, it doesn't matter at
it's
all.
like-
But it's like, it's,
I remember being in school and be like, oh, that's cool. And then when you get into restaurants, you're like,
that was like the point of my life where I was like inspired by him because it was like really interesting. Something I'd never really understood or cared to understand until I got there. And then it also like, it was when I realized there was like the Michelin Guide and there's like this whole world of restaurants that I had no idea even existed. Like I didn't know how to find it. And it made me want to like go down this rabbit hole. Like I just want to be in like a great restaurant now.
what was that great restaurant?
Well, I finished out in Boston after 6 months. And then I moved to New Jersey, back home for a bit. And I was like adamant that I'm not staying in New Jersey. Like I'm going to come home, but I have to leave. Like
Okay.
I got to get out. But I was working for this chef. Name was Andre Dewall. Super good guy. Still cooking. Still like owner, operator, chef. Like small restaurant. It was probably 40 seats with like a 3-top bar. French, like bistro type food. Like really kind of fairly simple, classic cooking. But it was just like me and him. I got hired in. It was me, this kid Colin, and Andre. And we would just be in the back, just 3 of us cooking. Open 4 days a week. So it was awesome for like a good balance, but like you just go in and you just like do it. And it was where I like learned how to like cook proteins for the first time, like learning how to cook ducks and steaks and like butcher things all the way through. All through high school, we like learned how to butcher venison and stuff and like whole deers, but it was just like, it was different because he was like super kind like very understanding. And you're in like a small town. He was there for like when I first started. One of the first dinners I worked, it was like their 13-year anniversary. So they're there for like ages. And they like understood the market well. So like you get a high school kid and like you got to be like hard, but also understanding that like this is just a kid. So like for me to go there, like when I was 20, was really good because he taught me a lot of like different levels of empathy of people. Because when I first started, I was like, I'm only like 3 months and I'm going to leave. And then like 3 months turned into 6 months, and 6 months turned into a year, and a year turned into like, I ended up being there for like a year and 9 months. But like every single time we sat down, he's like, I think you should like stay a little longer. And he's like really understanding about that and like talked me through the process. And when it was like time to go and I had like an opportunity to go, he's like, you need to leave. It's like, it's time to get out.
Yeah.
And it's like one
That's
of those
a good leader.
Yeah.
It's a good mentor.
He's like, he could have kept me around if he wanted to.
Yeah.
He was like, don't leave. I probably would have been there. But he was like, it's time. Like there's nothing else here for you to do. Like you got to get out, go see something else.
Okay. Where did you go?
Washington, D.C.
Why'd you pick there? It's close to home still?
Well, there was two options. So the one guy I knew, this guy, David Varley, at the time he was the corporate chef for Michael Mina. And he was traveling and opening restaurants, and he grew up like 2 towns over from me. So we grew up in the same county, but he was about 10 years older than I was.
Okay.
So he was doing this corporate chefing gig. And he also worked for Andre like 10 years before me. So I knew Andre knew David. I was working for Andre. Dave came in one night. He was having a cocktail. I was talking to him. I was like, man, like, what are you doing? How's it going? Like, I'm looking to try and get out of here. And he's like, well, I might have some things. Like, let me get back to you. And he put me in contact with Adam Sobel at the Four Seasons in DC.
Okay.
And he was the chef there. And then Jason Berthold, who was out at RN74.
Right.
I was going back and forth with them, and I was like, I'm just going to go to DC because it's like closer, like less of a jump. So moved down to DC, met like all my friends that are still my friends today through that job. It was like an incredibly hard kitchen. Like it was the hardest kitchen I think I've ever worked in.
Really?
Extremely high standards. Like Adam built a really great team of like sous chefs and cooks, and just like extremely high volume. Like 350 covers a night.
Damn.
Just like pounding.
What location in Washington, D.C.?
Georgetown.
Okay.
So it's a Four Seasons hotel, but right in Georgetown, right on like the Flatiron of M Street and Penn. So it went right down to Pennsylvania Avenue, around where the White House is.
Okay. Were there any other what restaurants were you going to when you lived there?
Eating out.
Yeah.
Went to Two Amy's a lot. It's really good. Man, I cannot remember the name of the restaurant now. Blue Duck Tavern was a great restaurant. We went out with like 10 of us there, and it was just like an amazing meal.
Yeah.
Way back. It was so good.
Going out to eat with cooks is amazing.
Yeah. It was such a cool experience. Like I never really had, like it was probably like the highest of dining I've ever like eaten out at before. As an adult. So it was like really cool to like see it. It's just like a beautiful hotel, beautiful kitchen, really delicious food.
Right.
Obviously the experience is like incredible. You're there with like 10 people that you're like growing closer and closer to every day as you like work with them. So it's like super interesting. And it was like really early on when I first moved there. So like, it's just like everything's new and it's very fast and like, you're just like kind of in it. So the whole thing was awesome. But Two Amy's Tavern was really good. Man, there was some great sandwich spots out in Arlington we would go to, but it's like so hard when you're a cook. I was living in a living room on a futon, paying like $600 a month in Arlington, Virginia. And the guy that I was living with, he was cooking at the same restaurant, and his sister was his roommate. And I was just like the guy that showed up, and I like needed a place to live, and like I could only afford so much money. It's like, and you're like spending all your money on like going out and drinking after work and eating food to get by.
Exactly.
At that time. So like dining out was not huge, but there's like, I think DC is obviously a really great food city. And I think the way it's growing now is just like really impressive. And a lot of my buddies out there now that have like opened their restaurants and are doing their thing is like, it's really cool to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Dope. How long did you work there?
2.5 years.
2.5 years?
Yeah.
At that point, what did you make it sous chef or anything like that? Management?
I did.
Okay.
I started on the fryer It was like entry station there, and then I worked my way through all the line, and then junior sous. Was a sous chef for about a year and a half, maybe. After I left, by the time I left, it was just it was a wild restaurant. It was really interesting because it's such a high profile place with the Four Seasons. So like you just get everybody that's coming into the city staying there, whether it's like delegations from different countries or like sports teams or celebrities that are doing shows or coming into town for stuff. One of the first like really cool dinners we cooked was for Obama for his anniversary, and did a 2-top in the PDR for him.
Oh, dope.
So we did that 2 years in a row for them. It was really cool.
Damn.
Just like really interesting people. You get to see like really amazing people come into that restaurant, people that you don't normally ever get to see. And then you get like cool experiences like that, like cooking for Obama, which was like fucking sick.
Yeah. I bet. The like Secret Service you had to deal with?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They like come in and check the place out, right?
They're like all over you.
Yeah.
No one in, no one out.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like when we cooked for the Kardashians at Charter Road. Same level of fucking security, bro.
Probably more.
Yeah. Don't fucking look at them. It's cool. So when you left there, what were your plans?
I wanted to move to California.
Okay. Just because you hear about this beautiful produce?
Yeah. It was like, I think there's always like places people want to go, like in their mind. It was like, it was always like New York or San Francisco. I wanted to go out to the West Coast, get different weather. And the guy I'm out here with, or I was out here with for his wedding, Harry and my buddy Dimitri ended up moving west to work at RN as like junior sous chefs. And like we just had a bunch of people that like moved out here, so I had like a close knit group of friends that I knew I was like gonna be easily plugged into. And then my whole trajectory was like staying in the meeting group, so I was gonna stay working for Michael, trying to figure my way out through the ranks, and wasn't really sure where I was going with it, but I knew I just wanted to stay on the path.
Right. Dope. Okay, so you start working at RN right away?
No, I started at Bourbon Steak on Union Square.
Got you. Bourbon Steak, Union Square, busy, right? It's like a big restaurant?
Yeah, really big restaurant.
Yeah.
Busy. But I mean, coming off of Bourbon Steak DC, which was just like a machine, like clockwork, I was used to it at that point. It was good. Really, that restaurant was really interesting because that was where Michael had Michael Mina originally. And he had just like staff that was there forever. It was a hotel, so they take good well other people. I think it's a union property too. But like the AM sous chef, this guy Johnny Martin, was just a fucking beast. Just like knew what was going on, knew where everything was, knew what he was doing. He was just like machine every single day.
The place so well.
Yeah, like he knew it. It was like it was part of him.
Right.
It was a part of him.
I get that, but that's what makes restaurants great.
Yeah.
What was the major differences between the bourbon steaks on different coasts to you? Or did you feel that everything was kind of seamless?
No, it was different. It was definitely different. The chef there at the time was like very molecular focused. Like he used a lot of like preparations with like, it's where I learned a lot of like agars and all the hydrocolloids and stuff.
Okay.
I learned how to use a lot of that type of cooking. And like it was different because like DC, there wasn't like this huge farmers market scene, or at least not all year there was. And you could go down to the Ferry Building, just like get a cart of produce and walk it up, take a cab back. So like finally the difference was like, it was the same concept because we served steaks and fries. And I think that was like really it. And Michael Mina has like his pot pie and tuna tartare, and like that's pretty staple across all those concepts. But everything else, like it was really personality driven on the chef at the time.
Okay. Heard. How long did you stay at that bourbon steak?
6 months.
6 months before you went to RN?
Yeah.
Okay.
My goal was to go to RN the whole time. My buddy Michael Raffiti was a corporate chef, but I knew him from...
Michael Raffiti, that sounds so familiar.
He's got a restaurant in DC now. He just got a star this past year.
Albie, yeah.
Oh,
shit. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's why I know. I tried to walk in there, but they were fucking maxed out when I was on the road trip.
He's the man. He's awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how,
Didn't know he was a Mina guy.
Yeah. Way back.
Okay.
everyone's a meaner person at some point. It's
I hear you. I'm not trying. I've been recruited twice now for the fucking job. I'm like,
yeah,
stop it with the meanest shit. Like, I'm not doing it, you know?
hands everywhere.
People are like, man, as soon as they give me that money, I won't be saying nothing. All right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I wanted to go there because Michael was just like, Mike is just like the man, like super solid cook, very serious. Like at that point in my life, I was like 25. I just wanted like intensity, and it was intense.
Okay.
Like hard kitchen, good food, good cooking, like real cooking. Like, and I mean, we met a bunch of people. You talked to Dave Dreyfus.
Yeah.
Like good dude, solid cook. That's where I first met him.
Okay.
On Entremet when I first got hired. Yeah, lots of people came out of that kitchen. It's a cool place.
Yeah. Was it hard working with friends that you said were your sous chefs? Or because you were serious, you didn't really?
No, I mean, like, it never really ended up being that personal. It was hard. Like, it was really hard. Your graffiti he was demanding. And not in like a bad way. This is not to like paint a picture of him in like a poor way, but it was a very demanding restaurant because like there was a goal. Like, it was just to do high quality cooking and hold ourselves to like high expectations.
Right. Do you think that can be done in any other way than hard?
Yeah, I think it's a young I don't know because I've never worked in a 3-star Michelin restaurant for an extended period of time, so I don't really understand that world. But I think like when you're like cooking at a 1-star level, there's ways of like managing it, and I think it's about the approach. I think it's more importantly about the follow up. Like I think there's got to be a lot of follow up with that kind of stuff.
Were you receiving that follow up? Did you feel like?
Yeah, I was tight with graffiti. I mean, to this day, I'm still good with him. Like we would go out after work, chat. Like it was never personal. I knew nothing was ever personal. It was just like, it is what it is. Like we're just doing it because we want to do it. Like I didn't have to be there.
Right.
I made my own choices. Like if I felt like it was malicious in any way, I would have probably made different ones.
But be gone.
Yeah, like it wasn't about that. It was just it's because we wanted to do well, and like you're young too, so you're like your perspective is a little skewed. You want to really ride it hard and like go deep in the paint on it and like really put everything into it. Whereas I think when you get older, like you find there's ways that you don't have to be that way. And I think like more so now it's like the industry is turning that way, that like not everything needs to be that way.
No, not everything needs to be that way.
There's definitely got to be a balance in some way, shape, or form.
However, I do feel like
I think there's
should be restaurants that are still that way.
There's a huge value in it for sure.
I feel like I wouldn't have gotten to where I was if I didn't.
No, I wouldn't be
absolutely roasted.
I wouldn't be the person I am without any of it.
Yeah,
like
the discipline is really what attracted me.
And that discipline is like so. You can translate that to like so many different parts of your life, or even like worlds of profession. Like that level of discipline and understanding, like task oriented work, is like super powerful to learn. And that's what you get with like kids now. It's like the way we talk to the chefs and the cooks at Spoon, or even at our end when I was running, it was like, this might not be what you want to do. Like, that's fine. Like you don't have to. I'm not telling you need to be like here in my position as the chef or like over there as the sous chef or like the GM. Like it doesn't need to be that way. But while you're here, it needs to be 100%. Like you can't just like come in at 75, like because the people that come here are doing 100. So if you have like any respect for any of the work that everyone else is doing, you need to be present every single time you're here. But we're going to support you through whatever else you want to go do. Like if you want to go be a dentist and like this is just the thing you're doing while you're like learning how to be a dentist, then cool. But while you're here, it's business. That's it. Go be a dentist. I'm not trying to talk you out of being a dentist. But if you want to be that person, while you're here, you need to be with us.
Right.
Because that's what we want. And you can't be here like just disrespecting all this other work that all this energy everyone's putting into this and like time and like sweat.
The years that it's taken to build.
And not respect that. Because if that's the way you want to be here, then like we don't need it. I don't think that's like I don't think that's like hard. I don't think that's like meant to be challenging. I think that's actually pretty
standard operating procedure.
standard operating procedure. And I think for some people, I think it's like really empowering and like to understand that like just because you're here doing this job does not mean there's only one goal. I mean, like, look at you, like you're doing podcasts.
Yeah.
Like if that was the frame of mind that you were working in or like living within, you'd be a chef still. Like same with me. Like if I like, I'd be trying to open a restaurant right now, you know, like, and not to say that any one of us could ever not go back to any of that ever again. But I think it's really important because like, I think it marginalizes a huge piece of like a workforce that otherwise might work in restaurants. But if they're like conditioned to think that like, if I work in a restaurant, I have to be a chef or I have to be a restaurant owner, I have to be a general manager, I have to be like the lead bartender. Like it doesn't have to be that. All you really need is just like the expectation of like when you are here, you are doing the job.
Right.
And that's it. That's
all
you can do.
Just what you said there can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes I took it personal when people I felt like they weren't fully invested.
Oh,
that led through to a lot of overreactions or like, you know, me taking things personal. Like, oh, you don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not the most important thing in the world, first of all.
That was
It won't work.
I learned it. Like I was conscious of the idea of it, right? Like I was probably 23 or 24 and I was working at Bourbon Steak and I was like losing my mind. Like I was just like a complete over the top asshole about stuff. And the pastry chef Cass like pulled me aside. He's like, look, man, like not everyone wants what you want. Like some people are just working here to have like enough money to hang out with their kids on the weekend.
Right.
He's like, you don't, they don't have the same goals as you. He's like, you can't treat them like that. You can't talk to them like that. And like, I didn't implement it at the time. Like I was too young. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But also at the same time, I don't really care. It took years for it to like sink in. And eventually, like by the time I got to RN and we were working together with Graffiti, it was like, we as a unit had goals. Like we knew what we wanted to do. We knew what food we wanted to cook. We had like very clear conversations about it. He was very honest with me about what he wanted and what he needed, vice versa. And it was, I think, a really good relationship. It made me a stronger cook, made me a smarter person. But it was exhausting. Like it is exhausting to exist in that space, like constantly.
Yeah.
Like spinning your wheels almost. It's like you're not fighting the food, but you're fighting a plate at some point.
Yeah.
And you're not like maybe maximizing the best out of everybody. And not to say it's bad, you know, like we're all learning.
Yeah.
So it's like
you get lost in the minutia a lot.
It's a process.
And you're like, things that matter change your perspective.
And
if you're not too careful, it can change your perspective to like something very negative, toxic. How long were you at RN?
3.5 years.
3.5 years?
I think. Yeah, 3.5 years.
I'm guessing you were a sous chef when you left?
I was the CDC when I left.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I started off as a sous.
Right.
Came in. The goal was to get me to exec sous with Rafidi. Got the exec sous role. Rafidi left. I took over for him.
That must have been a great day in your career.
It was. It was interesting.
It was very lonely, no?
Yeah.
Like all your friends that you used to be like cooks with, now you're their boss. Or all your sous chefs who you even have more of a tight knit because it's like 4 of you against, 16 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And now you're all by yourself.
I was very fortunate. We built a strong team. The guy that we ended up making the executive sous chef, my buddy Robert, we cooked together at Bourbon Steak for a long time. He moved out west. We eventually got him at RN to be a sous chef. So I was like, he was sous, I was exec sous. I took over CDC, he came up as exec sous with me. Like there was a lot of like history behind it all with the two of us. So there's a lot of trust. And like, I think Rob is a better cook than I am, for sure. I think I've cooked with a lot of people that are much better than me at cooking. I would say I'm like the self-proclaimed not the best cook on the line when I'm there. But I think
you don't have to be. Some chefs that are the most horrible cooks have 3 stars.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to be. And I think like for me at the time, it was like kind of a gut punch, but then it ended up becoming like, well, I don't really need to be. There's so much other to this than like just the physicality of like actually cooking right now, that if you can teach people how to cook,
Yeah.
and they can implement it well and do better than you, then like that's more valuable than like being a savant and not being able to teach anybody anything ever.
Exactly. Okay. So you take over that CDC role, and how long after you became CDC were you there?
I was there for a year.
As the acting CDC? Did you train a CDC to take over for you when you left?
We closed the restaurant after
Closed the restaurant. Why?
Yeah. It was open for 10 years. It didn't always perform at a really high financial level. And then we were going to open Aisha Curry's restaurant there.
Okay.
International Smoke.
Right.
So I finished up as CDC. This is kind of when I was like starting to talk to Gavin out of Minneapolis.
How'd you meet Gavin?
My buddy, who was my roommate in DC, moved out to Minneapolis, and he was Gavin's CDC at Belcor.
Okay. We're talking Gavin Kaysen here, badass chef who learned under Balud, correct?
Yeah.
Got you. So Kaysen's talking to you. Is he reaching out to you, or how does he?
Well, Nick was like trying to get me out
Okay.
to Minneapolis. He's like, you should come out here, figure something out. We'll find a place for you. So I staged at Spoon. I staged at Belcor. I started talking to Gavin. And like we stayed in contact for about a year and a half beyond, or I guess it was more like 2 years at the time. Like we were staying in contact for 2 years, like talking. When I first went out there to stage, I like did my stage at Spoon. We sat down in the office, was talking to him. He's like, yeah, I think you should come on. I know you're like the chef of a restaurant in San Francisco right now, but I think there's opportunities for you to, be a part of the team. Like you could come on as a sous chef, but there's more growth to be had. I was like, look, I think this is like a great opportunity. Like I'm flattered. Like I didn't think I'd be sitting here and talking to you about this at all. It's like, but to be clear, like I am working on something and I want to make sure whatever next step I take, I'm very honest and open with that person about like, I have something that I want to do and that it's not going to go away. And I will do the job of whatever I have to take now and I'll do it well and I'll be like committed, but I'm going to be working towards something else.
That was the UP-CIO?
Yeah.
Okay. So you make the decision, you move over there, and you came in as CDC?
Well, there's a whole year. So I went out to Minneapolis, like right as I was taking over CDC at RN, staged, had that conversation, went back home, took over the role, did that for a year. And they were like, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to stay in San Francisco. I don't know if I'm going to move. Don't know if I'm going to go back to DC. Michael Mina offered me this job as a corporate chef. So my title was like corporate chef of emerging brands and new concepts. So I was doing a lot of conceptual work, restaurant openings, menu development, like working with the executive chefs on property, training them in, like working with them and supporting them. Lots of travel. I was on the road for a year. So
for a year? Damn.
Yeah. Long time.
They put you up places that were nice or what?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Hawaii for 6 weeks.
Mina budgets, love that.
Yeah, 4 seasons.
Shit, make me want to go work for Mina.
Bellagio, Aria. Went to Dubai for a while. Out in Boston.
If you have they just send you by yourself. Did you have a partner at the time?
We were coming up together. So the guy who was like my counterpart, what we were working towards was like, I was going to be conceptual development, like front end of pre-opening stuff. We get to opening, we'd open a restaurant. I'd hand it off to Alex. Alex would take over as like operational, like success moving forward beyond opening. So we would go in and have like a couple corporate sous chefs bouncing around. So we'd go in with them. Veronica, who is the corporate pastry chef still, would come in and do stuff. And then there was like a bunch of like people above us, like David Varley, Sobel. These guys were doing like VP operational things, and they would come in and like help support it. But we were mostly not the team like running everything because we had such an amazing support structure. We'd go in with like 5 people to open a restaurant just on the corporate team. So it's like 5 very high level, very strong, intelligent chefs going into a restaurant and running the restaurant with another whole management staff there. And you're like working with the management staff to get them to speed so they're able to like run it on their own. So it was like a lot of stuff. I mean, I worked with like really, really cool people, like someone like Jason Franny, which I don't know if Jason Franny is. He was the first executive sous chef, I think, if I remember correctly, at EMP.
Okay.
With Daniel. He worked at Canalys for a long time. But he got hired by Michael Mina to come in and like be a corporate chef, and we did Michael Mina Bellagio together, Michael Mina San Francisco together. Super talented, really smart guy. We would just have like an amazing support system of people that we got to work with.
What was your job specifically when it came to opening that restaurant? You said team of 5. I'm sure you guys split up responsibilities. What were you mainly doing?
I mainly was focused on working with the chef I would go in before the opening. So I'd be there for a couple weeks before we did any opening. So I would do a lot of like menu development, like suss out the menus, do the work for the recipes. We had an internal like recipe tool that I would like, keep up to date. And as my job scaled, I was like getting more to a point where I was going to be managing all of the recipe tool for the whole company. And just like working through like conceptual development on the ground with the chefs and as we did more restaurant openings.
Okay.
But like when I was going into a restaurant, when I did Michael Mina or San Francisco, it was like being there for weeks, working with Raj, developing the menu, helping run the restaurant with him. And it was like, you never want to get like too integrated into an operation because then like you become necessary and then like you can't move on or you can't move on without doing any damage because you're going to have to move on eventually at some point. So like you're always like towing this line of like trying to be supportive but not like physically necessary.
Right.
So like doing all the prep doesn't do anyone any good because you're just allowing them to like trust that it's going to get done by somebody else. But the day comes when you're not there and it's kind of like a shock because all the other stuff they're doing, they're like consumed with, and then they have to take on this other piece of it.
Right.
So a lot of it's just like running services, like talking with the chefs, doing conceptual stuff. Mina would call a lot. He's like amazingly intensely focused on like
involved.
He's very involved.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there any restaurants he's not quite involved with? I know he's grown a shit ton of restaurants.
There's
no way to
extremely involved.
Right.
Like he's got his people that he's like involved with and they like kind of go down to the restaurants, but like he's very aware of like a lot of the happenings in all the restaurants.
Okay.
Very conscious.
Gotcha.
Impressively so with so many restaurants.
Yeah, I bet. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
So you go to Spoon and Stable.
Mm-hmm.
And how's it there compared to where you were? I mean, food wise, was it, like what attracted you to the job that you wanted to do it?
It was the restaurant for one. Like there's two minds at the time that I was thinking about. It was like, I'm a chef. I want to go work at a great restaurant and I want to be the chef of that restaurant and I want to like build my resume. So like Spoon and Stable, like James Beard, Gavin Kaysen, like good bones, good history, was really interesting to me to do. And I think an opportunity that I don't think I would have really had many of at the time. And there was also like this level of support. Like Gavin knew I was working on something. I wanted to work on something. So for me to go in there with his understanding that like James is still doing this other thing, to have that support was really important for me. I mean, Gavin's one of my advisors, effectively a business partner with me. So like
Rob CIO.
Yeah.
Got you.
So like he's been incredibly supportive of like the process and like understanding that. And it's like super challenging, right? You're trying to balance two things at the same time where you're like, you need to be the chef, but also you want to like try and grow this one thing. And like both are supporting the other's success in a way that it's like tough to figure out like what that blend is. So, I mean, for me, it was just like knowing that I had a person that was going to be there that knew that I was going through something else and working through it and was going to help support me through that process too.
Right. Was there times before this, before you leaving that you thought you were going to leave? Like 2 years in or like, I don't know.
Not because I wanted to leave.
Right.
I mean, I've always been like, I talked to him about this last week is like, we sit down and like talk about trying to like raise some sort of level of money or try and like transition myself out of the restaurant into this. It's like, I feel like I'm always sitting down talking to you, trying to be like, I'm trying to quit, which is like not necessarily the case, but it is like kind of the goal. Like I'm trying to leave, not because I necessarily really want to, but because like I want to, like, there's something that's like in here that I want to like own and like take control of and like drive the vision of. And like, I think it's that, not entrepreneurial. I don't really like that word, but like that like thing in your gut that makes you like really want to do it.
Yeah.
It's like that driving force. There's something that's like, it's like
the Never-ending fire.
Yeah, there's something there. It's just like, I know I need to do this. I just have to do this.
Yeah.
It's not because like I don't like what I'm doing right now. It's just, it's necessary.
Yeah. How do you take that?
It's good. I mean, it's a tricky thing, right? It's a tricky thing when you're a chef of a restaurant, for sure. Cause like there's a lot you take on with that. It's a tricky thing in any position. We're all learning how to like manage expectations all the time. And I mean, ended up being good. We're talking. I gotta get lunch with him next week. So
dope. Hell yeah.
We're still good.
What were some of the coolest dinners you did at Spoon and Stable? Some of the coolest chefs you worked with?
Oh man.
Cause I know you just did one with Maylin.
Maylin was awesome.
She came through.
She's amazing. She's super cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Food's delicious. Good person.
Yeah.
Maylin was really cool. We have like a lot of like common friends, like someone like Graffiti.
Okay.
Friends with, got a bunch of people that we all know. I mean, it's hard to say that like Thomas Keller wasn't like one of the best ones because it's like
they roll in with their own plates.
It was deep.
Literally.
Yeah. We had
like everyone comes.
Oyster and pearls plate.
Yeah.
And they brought in physically with them.
Yeah. They did that for 12 days.
Yeah. It was, we had to rent 3 chargers for that dish. Like a 12-inch and 9-inch, 6-inch maybe.
Yeah.
And then they have like their 5.5-inch one they put on top of it, or 4-inch one they put on top of it.
They definitely have a lot of vessels for sure.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was interesting because like I think from like a distance, right? Like I've had that book for, 10, 15 years. I've just been carrying it around all over the place with me.
Right.
And you like look at all the food, and I think for me, every time I've ever like eaten in a restaurant that's like so built up in my mind, it almost like can disappoint you because like you just want it to be something that it's like never going to be.
Yeah.
Not because anyone is doing something wrong. It can't. Like there's no way it can.
Yeah.
If you build it up so much.
It can live up to an expectation that's too high in your mind.
Yeah. So like, it would not that the food wasn't as good as I thought it could be. What I think it was is like, wow, this is not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. Like it like removed a veil of like complexity that I thought was going to be there. That
it's like,
just,
oh, this is fucking
like
easy.
We do stuff like this here.
Yeah.
Like, so like what they're doing is not what they're doing isn't good. It's like, how do I frame this? What they're doing is not like,
yeah, be careful, bro. You're going to,
I know, I'm trying
a
not
lot
to,
of people's feelings out there.
Like,
when we Tommy K, you know what I mean?
I'm sure he's paying attention.
Tommy, hey, don't diss my podcast like that, bro.
I'm not saying that. It's like, I don't know. When I talk to the cooks, everyone's like so built up about like food, like they want to be like wound up about the process. It's like we're just cooking, like we're cooking food, right? Like,
yeah,
it is important.
You cook dinner, that's it.
But don't make it so important that's impossible. So like when the crew rolled through, they were awesome. Like super talented people, very professional, very personable, had a great time. But it was like, all right, well, it is just food. What they're doing is like an extremely high level of like consistency, accuracy, technique. Like they're repeating process at like such a level that like when you buy a car, people are willing to pay $80,000 in one time to drive that car, to own it, because there is such a high level of replication, right?
So it's
just
Ferrari.
Like, it's every single time it happens the same way. Like that oyster and pearl dish happens exactly the same way, whether it's in Minneapolis, whether it's at the 12 days, whether it's in French Laundry per se, they're like in Singapore doing a pop-up, like that dish is the same because like the team they have. I mean, it's pretty amazing that the fact that like Devin Neal, who's this culinary director, and Breeden, the chef of the laundry, collectively between the two of them have like 50 years of working experience within the Thomas Keller group. Like that's an amazing value.
It really is.
Like how do you
don't see that anymore, really.
How do you get that? Like that's crazy. Like it's an insane amount of time.
That indentured servitude.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I will stay here. That's a loyalty that doesn't really exist nowadays.
It's like a personality trait too, which is like amazing. Like to me, it's like if I wish I had something like that. I just don't. I don't know why. Like I wish I could be that person that is like at a restaurant for 10 years,
right,
12 years, but I don't know if like I emotionally or physically have that. So like when we did the dinner with them, like the food itself was like amazing. The people were amazing, but it took this step back of being like, well, yeah, this is something that we could probably do if we wanted to. It wasn't like they didn't have like the crazy book of secrets that no one else has. You know,
Right,
like,
right.
We're all just cooking food here.
Yeah, I hear you.
It was pretty leveling.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at that. But I will say they're one of the few restaurants that come in with like their own plates,
For sure. I mean,
their whole staff, and expedite. They come in with front of the house people.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? Like who? No other kitchen that I've ever known brought their, except for Alinea.
yeah,
They brought-
I was going to say that. I didn't work that one, but when they
Yeah.
did it at Spoon, they said Grant was asking Gavin, like, who's expediting tonight? Gavin's like, it's going to be me. Because we'll get our expediter to come out tonight.
Yeah.
Flew him directly over at expedite service.
Yeah, that's it's kind of crazy how those restaurants roll, but I mean, that's what separates them from any other restaurant that doesn't have that same lore and the stars and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's people probably could do it, but it's how often can you do it? Because like at a certain point, like you do it for 2 years.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But like, can you sustain that for
can you do it for 10 years?
10 years, 27 years?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's
Insane.
incredible. I mean, per se is 15 years old now, I think, right? It's got to be.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean, yeah. Shout out to them. They get a lot of flack. It's
Yeah.
easy to shit on them.
Yeah,
For sure. And everybody just like hops on the train and but I would say the legacy is there and you cannot deny.
No, you can't.
Can't deny it. So at the end of the day, fucking give them their flowers. All those fools that came from there, and they're still doing it today.
Yeah.
Still putting great cooks out there. So
I mean, just the level of commitment
yeah,
to be that like into it for that long is just like
I will say though, like a guy like David Breeden, no one outside the industry really knows he's the chef of the French Laundry. And that is sad to me.
Yeah.
I don't think they do a very good job of celebrating their people enough.
Yeah.
And I think, one like picture here or there on Instagram, they do that, but it's like, where's the real, the true,
Yeah.
And I feel like when you leave, it's like you die. They never talk about you again. Like Philip Tessier leaves the French Laundry. They don't link up again and do a dinner or anything like that. It's just weird to me.
It's interesting. It's an interesting part of the industry that
Yeah.
it's like, I think you need to have like special people that want to do stuff like that. I don't know if it's like, I have no idea. It's like hard for me to, I'm not any of those people. So
Yeah.
for me to like say I understand is hard, but I think there's like a matter of like, when I think about like my time with restaurants and the people I work with, I think you have to want to be a part beyond like the four walls.
Yeah.
You have to want to impact someone in like a meaningful way that is just not the job. And yeah, I mean, it is a shame because those guys they're the truth,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
they're the truth.
They're still doing it to this day.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I do hear you. Like, I think it's an interesting part of the industry because it is so. We were talking about this earlier. It's like everything has to have a face. Like everything needs a personality.
Yeah.
Now. Like no matter what kind of business you're in, like you need to have like that person that is that business. And chefs are
It's like all brand marketing is now. It's like a person.
I mean, like social media
Yeah.
has changed what I
For
knew
sure.
what cooking was when I started when I was 10. Like someone like Jean-Louis would be like, he's like unrealized as a person, but like someone like David Breeden, we were talking about that when he was at the dinner. Like we were talking about Paladin in New York and like all these restaurants that like these chefs produce that are like kind of before their time.
Yeah.
In ways of like recognition. Like there was not all these awards or all these shows or social media. Like they just were doing their thing.
Yeah. And that's what I feel the show is about, because I think that even today there's a lot of restaurants that are overlooked by James Beard. And I talk about this a lot, like the pay to play thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's the most terrible thing in the world, because at the end of the day, we need things like James Beard Awards and Michelin stars, because just like movies have Oscars, music has Grammys, like to recognize something exceptional is important. To hold lines and like let them know like where the levels are, I think is important. We need to define that within our industry. And how does the person that can't afford to pay to play win?
Yeah.
That's the mom and pop restaurants, truly where the chef goes to eat.
Yeah.
When he's not at his Michelin star restaurant, that is the superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tanya's Taqueria in Napa Valley.
Yeah.
No one talks about that place because it's like a little neighborhood spot. But talk to any fucking cook that lives in Napa, they go to Tanya's Taqueria.
Yeah.
All those dudes who work at the French fucking Laundry and all the guys that work at Meadowwood or Charter Oak or whatever, that's where they go.
Yeah.
But no one ever talks about it, and I'm like, I love the squeeze in too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, got to shout them out,
No, we talked about it when I first connected. I was like, I think it's, what you're doing is powerful because it is like shining light on, the people that are not necessarily like the profiles.
Yeah.
And that's like a massively important thing
Mm-hmm.
because young cooks or whatever they're doing is like, they have to recognize like, there's not this, like, I start here and I'm like up here. Like there's a million steps between that. There's not an instant like switch you can just turn on and just be like,
you're a chef,
the guy running the whole city, like the guy defining cuisine in one market. Like that's not what happens. And it barely happens. Like you're one in a million to get that to happen. So like knowing that, like that can't be like the barometer of success for your life. If you're not that person, that doesn't mean you're not successful.
Right.
And like expecting that, or even expecting it in like unreasonable amounts of time is like, it's not fair.
Well, especially being here in California, you find, because you're so close to LA, there's a lot more media news here.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when I go to Wyoming, they don't get the same Instagram feed shit that we get. It's all like, different.
Yeah.
So here we are very much aware of what's going on, who's married, who died.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's like when celebrities die, it is sad.
Yeah.
But like how many other people died that day?
Yeah.
From the same thing, from gunshots or whatever. And it's like, I think we're all as important as that guy who makes the song or the guy who makes the dish.
Yeah.
Like we put importance on fame, I think, more so than skill.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to highlight the working man because he is the real gangster. He's the real person holding it all together. Like when you go to a hotel, there's a person that cleans that room and they're fucking important.
Yeah.
And they
For
have
sure.
a story, and without them your stay would be shitty and you'd be like, why is this dirty? Nobody ever gives that. We don't even tip housekeepers.
I mean, that's the thing that makes, like, when you think in restaurant terms, that's what makes great restaurants great. It's like the things you don't even recognize or even see or notice. It's like, because if you did notice them, they'd be impacting you. We were going through the process of like, I wanted to stay at Bourbon Steak in DC at the time, and this chef came on, Joe Palma, and we were, I think, like a 3-star restaurant in the city at the time. And I was like, I just want to like see, I want to try and get us like 3.5 stars. I want to know what that is. And he's coming, he worked for Prepare for a long time at Wilburn and Den, and he moved down to DC and opened Eric's restaurant, West End out there. And I was like talking about it, I was like, what is the difference? Like, what, you've worked in these environments, like what is the definable difference? He's like, it's one of these things where like you go to a restaurant and you have like a great experience and you go back again 6 months later and you have a better experience, but you can't really tell why. It's like this undefinable thing. Mm-hmm. So it's like, for me, with food and restaurants, like as a chef, it's a I think interesting stance to take, but like, food in restaurants, to me, when you're looking at like mid-market restaurants, like restaurants you would go to with a bunch of friends and have a good time, is not inconsequential, but it's less important, I think. I think it's less important compared to the experience and the interactions you have with the service team or the environment or the way you're feeling when you're there. Because I've had plenty of meals where like I know the food's not good, but I've had a fucking blast and it was a great experience. Mm-hmm. So like those kind of things, like the touches, the people that are like doing things that you never really see, like the girls that are making pasta at Spoon Stable, Liz and Miriam, like they're crushing it. No one knows who they are. But they're the ones that like prop up that whole pasta program. There's handfuls and handfuls of people in all these restaurants that prop up the whole thing on their back. and no one ever knows who they are.
Whether it's like stock, sauces, pastas, the tortillas at Suerte, like all these little things that are happening behind the scenes. And, you know, these people come over from their country. Some of them, like I was working next to this lady the other day doing this gig, and it's not Gig Pro, it's InstaWork. It's like basically a gig app for cooks. And I'm cooking on this boat, and I'm sitting next to this woman, and she's like, I've never used a knife before. I'm like, okay, well, I'll show you how to cut this, right? And I'm like, what do you do? She's like, oh, I'm a professor. I'm like, professor of what? She's like, communications at a college in Peru. I'm like, now you're here peeling radishes. And it's like, and there's nothing, she's not like, oh, this is fucked up or whatever. She's just like, no, this is just what I'm doing now. And I think that sometimes we are so aware of like depression or like where we need to be that we don't even think about the person that doesn't have that privilege. Yeah. They don't, if they're depressed, they still go to work. They have to go to work. It's not like us where we're like, oh, I'll take a sick day. It's like, go fuck yourself. Yeah. You know, so sometimes it's hard for me to feel bad about certain, you know, situations or like, I'm feeling down today. It's like, I get it, but there's people that don't have a choice. Yeah. And they're, you know, their whole fucking family got killed in some war, and now they're an orphan and they're like at some refugee camp. It's like, your life can get a lot worse. If you have the privilege to listen to a podcast, it's not that bad, bro.
It's all perspective. Know what I'm saying? Man. It's all perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
It's massive perspective. It's so interesting.
Yeah, man. But I hope that we can get a positive message out there to all the young cooks that are coming in. And people talk about the staffing crisis. There's no staff. Well, you beat the shit out of them 10 years ago. Yeah. Now there's no cooks because they all left the industry. There was times when I was like, yo, fuck this. Like, why do I want to fucking work here where people treat you like shit and like, you know. But when you're playing the game at that highest stakes, like now I understand it more and I'm happy I did it. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people now in the future here where we're living that are not going to have a skill like that. Yeah. It's like nobody does trades anymore. Everybody's on the internet. Yeah. So I hope that we can inspire more people to like cook while they're young, get their ass kicked a little less, but still just enough to bring the cuisine forward.
There's got to be a level of like grit that you need. You should have some level of grit. You can't be so sensitive and soft about everything. Like there's reasons why you should have like some level of EQ and like know how to like manage people's emotions and like talk to them, but also at the same time like there's a huge value in just like we're digging in. We're just gonna dig in right now.
We're just gonna do it. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, you know, the staffing crisis aside or whatever we want to call it, like there's a huge like silver lining to this. Like I really liked taking younger cooks and teaching them. Like one, they're malleable. So like they don't know anything. They don't have like bad habits that they're bringing from other places or like things that you don't like. You can teach them everything from the ground up. Right. And then like at that certain point when you're giving them everything or as much as you possibly can give them, you're now like, there's like a level of commitment that you would have never maybe made what that otherwise, because you've invested like everything into them and everything they know is like from that place. So the amount of work that they're willing to be doing might be more, the quality that they want to hold themselves to is like higher because of it. Like, I think there's a huge value in that. And like, we did it at Spoon where we'd hired young cooks and invested a lot of time and energy in training them. I think is really valuable because it's like, it's a blessing and a curse, you know, like, yeah, sure. They don't know how to do it, but you're teaching them how to. If they do it the way you want to do it, you're not really going to have to question whether they know how to do it the way you want it done.
Because they only know that one way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like and you can be like a part of it too. Cause like, yeah, hopefully like for us, I wanted to make sure there was like a positive impact. It's like, so like, if you want to be here, but you're going to have to do it the way we need you to do it. And like, there's expectations to be had. And we're going to, even though you might not know how to do it, or know how to do it right now, once you do, that's like, we start like hitting steps of like, all right, different accountability levels, every single step, different accountability. Because like by the time you start getting things under your wings and you're like doing it, then you can hold them at different levels, and you know, try and impart some of that like grittiness on them. Like, because I wouldn't be the person I am without like like dying over that fryer with the chicken parm or like in between that broiler, Like, you know, it was hard. I wouldn't be the same person as I was if I wasn't at Bourbon Steak just getting like
Right.
laced by like.
There's major league restaurants, and then there's minor league restaurants, and in between that, there's everything else. And if you're going to work at a major league restaurant, need to you need to know that you're going to have some major league training.
Yeah.
Like nobody that coaches LeBron is like, "Hey LeBron, nice try. I know you didn't make that basket, but next time, buddy." It's like, no. They're like, fucking fix that shit. And even he himself is like lacing himself like, "Yo, that wasn't good enough."
Yeah.
And I feel like nowadays it's very easy to say, "Oh, we're good. We like feel good about ourselves. Let's pat ourselves on the back because we recycled." You know what I mean? It's like small little things like that. It's like it's definitely hard to navigate within this world. Like, I'm not trying to advocate for people getting yelled at or whatever it is in a malicious way, but I do feel like we should preserve the restaurants that have that, because they're finishing schools. You can send a cook that knows how to cook, whatever it is, but maybe you need to toughen him up a little bit. You send him there, he or she fully is aware of what the fuck is going on, and it's like when you're a boxer, you're going to training camp. You're not going to have a good time. It's not fun. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're trained, and now you can go anywhere and execute. Yeah. Like the best, at the best level, and impress those, or even change lives. Like, I remember the best times was when I went to restaurants, or I would have 12 days or whatever it was, and you see cooks, and you're like, wow, I want to cook like that. Like, that's fucking cool, So.
No, man. So you need to galvanize.
Other than the app, are you working on anything else? Any hobbies that you've never done that you want to get into, or?
Man, I want to go fly fishing again. Okay. I used to fly fish a bunch when I was younger.
You used to hunt too, right? Yeah. You getting back into that?
Probably not. Definitely fishing though. Okay. I need I want to work out. Right. I want to try and take better care of myself now that I have some space and time.
It's free time. No.
But I really want to go fishing. I think there's a value in just some sort of level of meditation that is just being out there by yourself fishing. Mm-hmm. Probably never going to catch much, but the process of just being there and in the water for a while, maybe it's just romantic because it was so far along, so far away from where I am now, but I want to get back to that. Other than work, it's I got the dog at home, trying to make sure the dog's not a shithead. Yeah. Training him.
When you were the CDC and you're working all those hours, how did you center yourself? Or did you meditate? Or was it just go, 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 go?
It was a lot of go, go, go. There's definitely better, you go through ebbs and flows where it's hard and gets easier. Mm-hmm. It was never necessarily easy. But the balancing act was I was doing Monday, Tuesdays. I was just grinding Monday, Tuesdays for OPSI. And then I was going back and working Wednesday through Sunday. And then I was I can't do things on Monday. I just need Monday off. I need to not be involved on Monday. Mm-hmm. So I just try to pack everything into Tuesdays, but then it also becoming all right, well, before work on Wednesday or after work on this day, it's just jammed. So having this space is amazing because it gives me a lot of frame of mind that I never had before. Cause it was you're trying to row two boats at the same time in one direction. Mm-hmm. And it's just your mind is just for me, just not doing it. So to kind of stay centered, I'd connect with the team a lot. I think having conversations for me with them about their perspective and what they were going through and their process was grounding because it helped me continue realizing what I was doing and how far I've kind of come, because they're young and I'm not really in that process anymore of where I was in my life, and kind of being refooted in that frame of mind and what they were going through gave me the ability to be well, everything feels it's really hard or it might suck today, but I was here at one point and I've moved on beyond it, and meditating with that helped a bit. Just being able to take some quiet time, close my eyes.
It helps. It's a two-way street. It helps them hear how to get over the struggle that they're facing because they don't know how, and then it helps you realize that you've learned and oh, that's how you deal with that. Yeah. So I find that young people keep you young in that way.
It's like rereading a book.
Yeah.
You know, you get a bunch of stuff that you never got the first time around.
Yeah. And just honestly, I'm like a young person's mind nowadays amazes me.
Mm-hmm.
They have so much information. Like before the age of 15, they're already fucking smarter than us.
Yeah.
Just inherently because of all the shit that's out
like
there.
Inundated.
Yeah. Like I remember back in the day, it used to be fucking the encyclopedia on Windows 98.
Yeah.
And it's like the limited things that had was all you knew.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then now it's like you can learn anything, anywhere, anytime.
At all times.
Yeah. So I just wonder like where we're going in the future, and I'm excited to see it because I think that there's a value in the young people that I didn't see up until recently. But then I'm like, as I'm getting older, I guess. It's just funny, I'm 33, and I said that I'm getting older in some group that they were like 50, and they're like, yeah, fuck off. So I always wonder, like, because 10 years ago, I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
And now I still, like, right now, I'm like, okay, I know everything I know. But what don't I know that in 10 years I'm going to be like, you're a fucking idiot?
Yeah.
So I try to think in, like, 10 years from now, looking back, because it helps me, like, stop some behaviors. Like, why are you still doing that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I was talking to my buddy about it, and he's like, he works in banking, and he works with like a bunch of older people, and he's like, all the guys I work with, they're not thinking about the weeks or the days, they're thinking about the years. It's like they don't like frame how something was within the week or the day or the month. They like, well, they had a good year. It's not like I had a bad day, a bad week, a bad month. It's like bigger. Mm-hmm. Like as you get older, it's like less about like the day to day kind of stuff, because like whatever the day to day is, it's minutia at some point.
The process of time changes as you grow older, because I don't know about you, but when I was in school, I felt like those days took forever. Mm-hmm. You'd be looking at the clock all day like, oh my god, it's not even lunch yet. What the fuck? And now it's like bro, blinks. if you're not out of bed by 7, it's like you're fucking done. Your day is gone. And I'm like, what is going on? So I feel like the hamster wheel is just like going faster. And the way I put it is the hamster wheel has now gotten electric. It used to be that a hamster run it, but now the wheel's just running. It's electric, so we're just like
you're just like
like jumping in on a treadmill that's just fucking going, And if you're not running fast enough, you'll fall on your face.
Yeah.
And so,
it's interesting. It's like the concept of time. Like you feel like you're almost more aware of it when you're younger because it feels like it's crawling, but now you're far more aware of it because like it's moving so quickly, and you're conscious of that. Yeah. It's crazy.
So, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's cool. I
Cheers.
appreciate it.
Episode 100.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been quite a journey to get here. Fucking Sucio Talk 100. James Passafaro. Check him out. Opsy.io. Can any restaurant purchase it? Or
yeah, we're open to everybody.
You're on the Google Play and all that?
We're in all the app stores. We got apps. We're on the web. We're optimized and ready.
Okay.
We're looking for good people that want to help us like actually be a part of the process.
Okay. So you're hiring right now.
Hiring and like looking for restaurants that want to like have active dialogue with us about what's working, what's not working.
Okay.
It's really important for us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So is that Opsy.io?
It's Opsy.io.
Opsy.io.
Yeah.
That's the website?
That's the website.
Okay, amazing. That makes it easy. How'd you get .io? Is that a domain name?
Yeah, luck. A lot of searching.
Right.
Yeah.
Does Opsy stand for something?
No, it was just like we wanted to be operation centric, and with tech, it's like 4 or 5 letters is best.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, simple. Right. As simple as possible.
Yeah, that's what Sucio Talk I've realized. I was like, should I just name the show something different? It's like I got to translate it for people sometimes, like Sucio. And I'm like, okay, I don't think you guys get it.
We get it all the time. It's we get oopsie.
Oopsie.
Yeah, oopsie a lot. It's like at the end of the day, we thought about it as like, what's the difference? Like, what's Google?
Yeah.
It's just a name, and now it's like, it's a verb basically.
Yeah, don't change it to oopsie though, because then people will say poopsie when you make mistakes. You don't want
that. It's all opsy now.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, fuck. Peace out. Sucio Talk.